Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to today's expert session. And my name is Lise and I'm a startup advisor at Digital Ventures. And I'm very happy to see you here today and excited to welcome Sencon. That's the right name?
Yep,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes, who will share their insight on this highly relevant topic. And the session will include a presentation followed by time for question and discussion. So please feel free to note down any questions along the way. And as always, the session is being recorded and will be shared afterwards with those who were not able to attend live, or if you want to share it with your team afterwards. So I think with that, I'll head over to Lee and Christopher.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all for your time. We'll try and make this as interesting as possible. So, ISO 27001. Should we give a brief background on what Sencon are?
Yes,
Yeah,
please
maybe
do
we
that.
should do that first, and maybe that's easier. So Christopher and I are Sencon, which is us two, a lawyer, and a couple of other technical security people, and we've all worked in security for many years, and we wanted to try and help startups with security, so we do a bunch of advice and guidance for startups. We work with a lot of different startup incubators, and the advice we give and the implementation of 27001 is free, so I'm not trying to sell you anything there. So the bits we do are free. Right. So anyway, I'll start with an introduction into 27001 as an ISO standard. So it's made up basically of three things, right? It's made up of the control framework itself, which is 93 controls. And this is almost like a shopping list, right? It's things you should do. Make sure you got backups, make sure you got, but it doesn't really tell you how to do it. And Christopher will go into that a little bit further later on. Then there's clauses. Clauses are about how you manage the control framework that's implemented within your organization. So how you audit it internally, how you present those results to the leadership or the founders or the CEO of the business, how you control your documentation to make sure it's updated. So housekeeping things really, and also how you do risk management. And risk management then allows you to make decisions on controls and to see whether they're effective. And the third part is certification. You can run the standard without certifying, right? It's actually a good thing to do. If you don't need certification, don't do it because it's a waste of money, basically. But if you need it because your organization wants to sell to enterprise clients, then it's useful to undergo certification. And this is the way it works. So I'll go through a little bit further, but there's a people like us who can help you, right, in terms of that. But then there's a certification body and there's a certification authority. But I'll go into that a little bit later and how that works. And it's basically to protect the confidentiality, integrity and availability of the data. What is certified? So the certification is the management system of your organization, right? It's the management of what you do internally. It's not a product, right? So you might have a product, an application you deliver. The management of that and the building of that, that's certified, but the actual tool isn't certified in that sense. But that's well understood in the industry. And it proves that you have a structured system to manage your risk and controls in place, processes in place. One of the core things for this is leadership oversight, because the biggest problem with information security normally is it's not done because the leadership don't warrant it. They don't see that it's valuable. So if you can make sure that's one of the key parts towards an ISMS, to understand the leadership want it and know it, and then it makes it real, right? And why should startups, or do startups care about it? So the standard allows you to kind of meet requirements from a B2B sales standpoint to win enterprise customers. If you're dealing with the public, you probably don't need this. You need security, sure, to stop data breaches. So you could implement the same control standard, but you don't really need to certify it. Whereas if you're going to have enterprise clients, you need to certify it. There's also two different levels of security here. There's a level that the standard requires, right? Have an Excel sheet with all your devices on it or something like that. There's a level that enterprise clients require, and Christopher and I can give advice if you need it on that, because we get audited by about 2,000 of the world's biggest clients in our day-to-day work. So we know from healthcare, from UK to US, from finance to whatever. We know what they're asking for as a minimum, and that's slightly above what the standard requires. Obviously, it helps to build trust and capability. I won't read through all these, but legal and regulatory compliance, this is very important these days. Legal and regulatory in all industries is going up. NIS2 and DORA and various other things are popping up out of the woodwork. A lot more health related. HIPAA we've also got in the UK, the NHS launched a data protection toolkit for health information. We work on that as well. So regulatory and compliance are another reason why startups should care about it. And then we go on to Annex A controls. I'll hand over to Christopher for this. He can chat you through it. These are the controls.
Exactly. So as Lee mentioned, the standard consists of clauses and controls. So here's a sample of controls from the standard. There's 93 of them. They're structured into organizational controls, people controls, physical controls, and technological controls. This is 22 of the organizational controls. As you can see there, they have a control ID like 5.1, 5.2. Then they have the control name, and then they have the control itself. And I'm not going to read through all of these controls, but if you read a couple of them, like information security roles and responsibilities shall be defined and allocated according to the organization's need. So the controls in general, they don't really say how you do things. They only give you, a control to meet, but how you meet them is not really defined. So if we move on to the next slide, I'm going to show you some example of how you can meet the control and the differences. So here we have a control of 8.1 user endpoint devices. It only says that you should basically protect your laptops. It doesn't say how. And as Lee mentioned before, there's a difference between what the standard requires and what a customer requires, or what your internal requirements could be here. So for example, if you want to pass an ISO certification 27001, you could do it without having or actually managing your devices. So for example, you can do that by making sure that your laptop's disks are encrypted, that it's patched, right? You don't have a super old operating system running, or it's not been updated in a while. And you can have standard issued anti-malware, which is often what you get out of the box these days. That's enough for the standard. However, preferably you want to have like an MDM solution, and that can be achieved through different tools. You can have Jamf, Intune, blah, 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 but it's not mandatory for the certification. But what that gives you is, more capabilities. You can remote wipe the device, you can remote lock it, you can actually make sure that the disks stay encrypted, that no one disables anti-malware and so on. Both of these are fine to actually get certified, but you can see there's a difference, different maturity levels to it. And also
if I can add something as well, just with the MDM, like Christopher said, you could literally write that in an Excel sheet, a list of 10 devices, and go disk encryption, automatic updates for patching, and anti-malware, and just list it, right? That's it. That's all you need really to do. But, sorry, I'm bugging.
Yeah. And then the next one. Here's another one. So 8.7, protection against malware. So here again, there's two levels. The standard only says that you should protect yourself against malware, but it doesn't say how, right? So that means from a certification standpoint, you can get away with just having, your standard issued anti-malware that you get out of the box from the machine. Or the next level is, going for a dedicated solution. And the standard ones, again, it's enough. The dedicated one gives you more capabilities. So often if you're gonna go for an enterprise contract, they might say, okay, you're certified, and here we can see you have the standard issued anti-malware one, but we're not happy with that. We want you to have a dedicated solution. And what I'm trying to tell you here is, like, just being certified is maybe not always enough, to please your customers. There's levels to it. And then
and one thing just to add here, what Christopher and I tend to do, we advise customers that, or people, anyone we talk to, you can have this where you do the basic now, if you're a startup, right? You're right in the beginning of life, yeah? and then have a maturity step written in your, you normally have one document, a control framework. You just write in there maturity step and write, we'll do that later, right? And what that does, if a customer reads it, they go, oh, you've got this as a maturity step. If you've not got it in there, they'll go, no, we can't use these guys. They're too young, too startup-y, right? And but if you've got it as a maturity step, oh, when are you doing that? And you go, oh, when you pay us some money, right? Then we'll do it, right? Excellent, thank you very much, right? When it meets your business requirements, then there's the time to do it. The other way of looking at it, and Christopher picked up on this, there's what the standard needs, what the customer wants, but what you need for security is a different thing. If you've got health data, we'd advise do that bit, right? Do conditional access, do a management, do the real anti-malware. There's like 3 things that you should really think about because it reduces risk, right? You're 90% less likely to get hacked if you have an MDM solution, mobile device management, to manage your laptops with a proper anti-malware and a proper. So those 3 little things, even if people aren't going for certification and they've got sensitive data, we'd advise that always, right? This one here.
Then the last one is more straightforward, and I think we picked this because this is a control where you cannot really get away with not doing these things, right? So you need to encrypt your data, especially if it's health data. That's super important. You need to both at rest and in transit. You need to make sure that you rotate your encryption keys. You need to, if you store secrets of any kinds, passwords and stuff, you need to hash and salt them. You need to make sure that this is protected. Here, there aren't really that many layers to it. It's just, you have to do this. But yeah, this is just a couple of controls and how you could, meet them. So, yeah.
Thank you. And now let's go on to clauses. So the clauses are grouped as well, like the controls are grouped. So governance and risk management, the control of the operational piece, right? And then monitoring and continual improvement, right? So the auditors tend to audit on the clauses, not on the controls, which gets confusing sometimes. And they have like something called 6.3, which is about operational change and things like that. They're important to know about, but there's not so much you need to do, right? If you have any clauses, come to us and we can help you with it. But they're not too difficult. But the key thing is it's how you operate the management system in itself. And they're pretty static. So once you have them, they're static. They don't change. Whereas controls, you can change with maturity over time. But the clauses tend to be very, very static. And how does this all work? So basically, you implement a bunch of controls. You do an internal audit to check you're ready, right? So you have to audit internally. It's part of the clauses that you have to do that. Part of the clauses as well is a management review. So you basically, it's very difficult if there's 2 people in a startup because you have to present it back to yourself, right? We management review and then we'll present to ourselves as the management, right? Which is a bit awkward, and then you publish all your documentation. I mean, that's what you do for preparation, relatively straightforward. A lot of consultancy firms will always tell you this is really hard and takes 18 months. It's not, or you need loads of tools for it. It's not difficult at all in the slightest. Then stage 1, you need to get a certification body, and they are someone that's allowed by a certification authority, and they're normally country specific, like UCAS for the UK, BELAC for Belgium, SWEDAC for Sweden. You can use anyone, and there's IAS, which is an international one. They then have a licensed certification body that sits underneath them who have external auditors. So you book the audit, they come in and do a stage 1, which is checking you've got all the things in place, right? Then there's a gap. You need to leave a gap before the stage 2, because if they say we have an area of concern, they can't raise majors and minor non-conformities because you're not at that point, but they can raise areas for concern. Let's say you didn't have a management review, you forgot to do it. They'd say there's an area of concern, you need to do a management review. Once you've done that and sent them the information, then they'll book the stage 2, and they basically review every single control, but at a very high level, right? It's not a very detailed thing. It's a very high overview. From there, for 27 and for all ISO standards, there's lots of ISO standards, you enter into a certification cycle. So certification is year 0. Surveillance, they look at it and make sure it's maintained, working, effective, make sure the controls are still relevant to you. That is deeper. They tend to they poke deeper at certain controls. They pick a few and go deeper. It's normally the certification audit is 3 to 5 days. Surveillance 1 is 1 day, maybe 2 if you're bigger, but if you're a small company, it's 1 day. And surveillance 2 is 1 day. Recertification is on the 3rd year. That's a 2-day audit as a minimum. And that they basically do a new, smaller certification audit, right? So that's how that
So
works.
it's not a one-off. It's
No.
it's once you go into ISO, you're always stuck in that cycle. So yeah.
And basically the process is implement the controls, internal audit, management review, external audit and certification, or surveillance. And it just goes around like that. So it's important to know. And we work with a lot of companies across Sweden, Belgium, all over the place. We advise them not to go for certification unless they actually need it, but definitely implement the standard itself. That's a good thing to do. But don't certify until it's financially viable, because that's more for the customer's sake than yours. But the controls are important to protect your data. It's useful.
Yeah. So then I want to go and talk a bit what typically goes wrong with implementing ISO. So there's three main things that we observe. So it's having too many documents, overcomplication, and overpromise. So Lee, if you go to the next slide, I'm gonna start with too many documents. So if you go to ChatGPT or I don't know, some page about ISO 27001 and you say, hey, I want to start implement this, you will probably get a list of policies that you should have and procedures and things. And you end up typically having between, 40 to 70 documents.
But the average is 94. The average is actually 94 according to our auditors now, which is ridiculous. Yeah.
And you can imagine that's very hard to maintain. I mean, who's going to read those documents? Honestly, that's just a big paper exercise. What we tend to recommend is to have this much shorter, right? So you should have a maximum of 8 or 9 documents. So instead of creating a billion trillion policies for everything you do, try to consolidate that into bigger documents or having like a big document covering most of it. Like if you go to the next page, I think we have an example of that. So here we have overcomplication versus common sense. So this is a typical example, right? So here on the left, you have an anti-malware policy. This is what you tend to see, like, hey, we have a separate document just to cover off anti-malware. You have a lot of information in here, purpose, scope, policy statement, approved software. There's a lot of fluff in here. It really doesn't go to the core of what you should do. And here on the right, we have how we think you should do it, which is basically list all the controls and then just say what you should do for it. So here we have control 8.7, protection against anti-malware. No, sorry, protection against malware. And here we just say, yeah, all client endpoints run MS Defender or whatever we do.
Yeah.
Just bullet point to say exactly what you should do. Nothing more.
There's a question. Someone's got their hand up. Should we?
Yeah, sure. Shoot.
Yes. So hi, Marie here from CareTech. I'm wondering. So we're gonna have multiple ISO standards, and looking at the policies, does those 10 policies apply for just this standard, or how does it work when we have, let's say, 15 ISO standards?
Yeah. So the way you do it is all ISO standards map against each other, right? And we'll talk about that in a bit, but I'll answer briefly, right? So you can do what's called integrated management systems, which is the way to do it. You can't run 15 separate ISOs, pointless, but all of them cover certain things. So ISO 27001 will cover a lot of parts of other ISOs, and a lot of them, some of them are full ISO, standalone, other ones are bolt-on, but you can map them against each other. And the International Standardization Organization, ISO, help with that. So also certification bodies know the best way of doing that. So when we have an issue like that, I tend to, in the olden days, you do ISO 9, 14, 18, 27, and a few others, and you just map them against each other. So you might end up with a different security policy and a different environmental policy and a different health data policy, but they're high level. But the main core, you'd have one control standard which covers everything. And the documents that Christopher showed you, the 7, one of them is the core, it's the control framework. That's the main bit, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. So you mean that did you say the notified body could provide this mapping where they concluded the control points to
some of it, but you need to do it a little bit manually. But we can always advise on that. If you need help, we're not going to charge you any money. That we can help you talk to you about that. But it's not that tricky. Basically, what you want to do is work out which controls overlap, right? Segregation of duties, they overlap. Okay, the requirements for those controls, and these are pre-mapped. You can buy them. You can not buy them, but you can get the mapping for these from ISO, right? The people that build the standards do it, but we can help you find that information if you ever need it, right? But the key thing is to make sure that segregation of duties might have 15 standards that you're operating. You can work out for segregation of duties, okay, each standard might need something different. So you combine that information and have one statement under that one thing, and you just map it against each other. I've done this for years. It's a little bit boring, but also you should look at it from the standard standpoint of, do you need 15? Because 15's a lot, right? Some industries you do need a lot, but other ones you need to focus on what's the core. And the thing is, I mean, we work in telecoms and we get customers, as our main jobs, and we get customers go, we need all these standards. Okay, let's look at this practically. What do we need as a business first? Then we talk to the customers and, talk about that. And what we find is ISO 27, SOC 2, and there's a bunch of other things that we don't need, and then specific things for specific industries, like German automotive, you need a TISAC certification. Certain other things in France, you need SECNAM cloud certification, right? Across Europe, you need NIST 2. So some things like Belgium, you need SciFun. Sweden has their own version. So you need to work out what you need and don't overdo it, because it's easy to buy all the ISOs in the world, but it can cripple your organization as well. Compliance can break organizations, so you've got to be very careful not to overburden yourselves with this, right?
Yeah.
But again, we can look at this with you. Let me go to the next slide.
Good. Thank you very much.
No problem. I'll cover it a bit more in a second as well.
And the next one is overpromise. So this is actually a policy that I got from a customer of ours when we started working with them, and they got the approval for me to use it, because this is provided by one of the big kind of tools that you can buy here today for ISO 27001. As you can see, this is a standard policy, I would say, for vulnerability management. Like, if you have a vulnerability, how quick should you remediate it? And when I read through this, it looked relatively fine at the beginning. And then when I came down to risk mitigation and exception handling, I saw, if immediate remediation of the vulnerabilities, of course, is not feasible, the CTO must approve a mitigation plan. And this is very common. Basically, what it's saying here is, if we don't patch within 7 days or 3 days or next sprint or whatever, all vulnerabilities, you should create a mitigation plan. As an auditor, I would come in and look at this and say, okay, show me the mitigation plans for all the vulnerabilities you haven't patched. And as a developer, you may know, and using some of the security tools, you could have thousands, right?
Yeah.
This is a complete overpromise and should be avoided at all costs. So you should always underpromise, overdeliver is
the answer.
Yeah, the answer.
And it is dangerous. And the problem is, a lot of the free kind of, well, not free, but paid kind of control frameworks, they don't work that well. They're too complicated, right? So, but anyway, health standards, right? So if you've got a health standard, for example, 82304, for example, the fundamentals of that are securing and handling personal health data, or EPHI if it's electronic personal health information, protection against unauthorized access, and transparency about data use, right? And if you have then 27001, which is what we're talking about, what Marie asked about the mapping, right? 82304 says the app must protect user data. Okay, well, 27001 gives you the policies and enforcement mechanisms and audit overhead to enforce, not just enforce it, but prove it's done, right? Prove to a customer that yeah, we got control, and by the way, here's a screenshot proving that is actually technically enforced within the organization. So without having 27001, meeting some of these other health-related pieces like HIPAA and 82304 or NHS DHPT, it is not possible. So you need to have this as a background. So it means you don't do dual working, which Marie was afraid of, right? You don't have to do this twice, right? If that makes sense. This is how we work, right? If you want help. And by the way, and I know it sounds weird, and I'm guessing a lot of people here are Swedish, right? So, and I'm English, but we don't charge to implement. If you ever need help to implement 27001, we don't charge any money, nothing. There's no contract. So just so you know, that's what we do, right? We help you. We help you basically gather the information. We build the whole control framework, present it back to you, and walk away, right? You can use this for other things. You want to save time on certification later, but there's no. It's a very weird business model, I know, right? But we've got, how many we got now? 60 clients across the world, and one of them is actually 12 Football, really crazy, clever AI startup in Stockholm, doing football analysis and things like that. They're on our website. They've got a review on our website and stuff. But they're never going to pay us a penny, ever. We knew that from day one. They don't need certification. They asked us, should we get certified? We said no, never. They deal with football clubs. The football clubs don't care. They don't want a certificate. They're not interested. And he thought I knew a lot about football as an Englishman, but I know nothing. So he was quite depressed about that. He wanted to talk to me about football. Luckily, Christopher can. So yeah, we're an accidental business. We didn't actually mean to start this, right? And on our website, I won't go through this, but this is what people say about us. And again, this is not a sales pitch. We're not trying to sell you stuff. We're trying to be useful to startup incubators, especially when you're looking at complicated stuff. We do this a lot, and we try and make this not. There's a couple of things that go wrong here as well, where consultants, they sell by the pound, right? So they sell by weight. The more policies they give you, the more money they make. The more complicated it is, the more money they make. The problem with that is then you've got to maintain that. Right. If you go to my friend, my wife's cousin works for, I won't say the name, but a big Stockholm technical security people. And they go in and they spend 18 months doing this. We go in and we spend roughly, what is it, Christopher? Like longest 12 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Can be less, right? So the effort on your side, which is what most people want to know, the effort on your side, and I'll stop sharing. Am I sharing? Stop sharing.
Yes.
Yeah. The effort on your side, it's about 24 hours of time, right? That's what the effort is on your side for 27,001. About 24 hours of time, not all in one go, obviously. You need sleep and sustenance and things like that. But questions. I think now we've got literally 31 minutes left for questions. So does anyone have any questions or anything specific about any other standards or Daniel?
Yeah, I'm just amazed of your promise here. You say it takes 24 hours for us to be on your track. That takes 18 months for big companies. I mean, how is that possible?
I know it seems madness, but it isn't. I'll tell you why. So we basically do like a 30-minute session where we go, hello, Daniel. And you go, do I like this guy or not? And when you decide, yeah, I like Christopher and Lee, they seem reasonable, we sign a mutual NDA, right? It means we won't talk about your company without your permission. Simple as that, right? Then we spend about 60 to 90 minutes asking you which cloud provider do you use, what sort of laptops have you got? Loads of boring questions, and it really is boring. You as a startup, most startups will say, no, we're not doing that. Do you do backups? How long do you keep the backups? Are the backups immutable or can they be deleted? Loads of questions, right? We then go away and do a control framework. Out of the 93 controls, because we build the standard for you, we know that 50 of them are met, like have a policy. We'll write a policy with you, review it with you, and publish it. It's done. That's 5 minutes. Have a legal register. Well, we'll talk to you about what laws, depending on how your data is. We don't need a lawyer. We have a lawyer if we need one, but we don't have one. We don't use him. He's too expensive. But we can work out what laws are applicable to you. For example, GDPR, obviously. We build that. That's done. So out of those 93 controls, pretty much, 50, Christopher? 53 maybe, are done. 40 need work. We need to check what your backups are doing. We need to work out, and we need to socialize this with you, right? So we meet you every week. Normally, the average, we're talking to our clients about this, but the average is 30 minutes a week for 12 weeks. That's the average, right? Some go longer, some are a lot shorter. We had some Belgian dudes. They had no expressions on their face, bless them. They're really nice guys, but they were very, what do we need to do? And I said, okay, robot people. I said, this is what you need to do. It is done. What's next? And we did it literally in 2.5 weeks. It was done. They were super, super efficient, right? They did it, I'd say effort-wise, probably 10 hours of their effort that they put in, and it was done. And they had done nothing beforehand. There was nothing ready, right? And there's certain things you need to make decisions on, like MDM and things, but we can have those as maturity steps. We write them in. And Christopher and I get audited by everyone, from Meta, Microsoft, to every bank in the world. We get audited. So we know if you say, hey, our customers are people, we know what the minimums are. It's your own security of your data, right? We're actually working right now with it's something to do with, I can't remember the name of the disease, but the disease affects women, right? And they're doing an app, and that app is only for women, not companies, for changes in lifestyle to help them deal with this condition, right? It's something to do with the ovaries. I'm not 100% sure, but we've only just started working with them. But they're amazing people. They're never going to certify, right? I know that sounds weird, Daniel, and you're right. It is weird. We're never going to charge them money. We already know that, but we're still doing it, and they can't believe it, right?
So what's the catch? How do you make money?
So we can explain the commercial. So when we started, genuinely, Christopher and I worked for a big telecoms company in Stockholm, right? Someone left who was an AI professor, right? He then said, can you help, Christopher Lee, can you help us with security? And we said, no. He said, but we've got a startup. We've got no money. Can you help us? No, we're too busy. And then he wore us down over time, right? And we said, fine, we'll come and do it. So we helped him. And then he's got quite a, chatty, he's well liked. People like him, people listen to him because he's an AI professor, and AI is kind of, the thing these days. But he kept talking about us. So all of a sudden we have 5 or 6 people. His investor is actually the owner or founder of the company we work for. He found out about it, came to me and was like, can you help 12 Football, who we invest in, and a few other companies? And we started helping. We went to them and said, okay, we're doing this free, which is great. We need to set up a commercial model to make this actually work long term, right? We can't do things for free. We'll run out of time. So I said to them is, what could we charge you money for that you don't mind paying for? Simple as that, which is an awkward question. And they said time, right? If you can save us time. So if you do with us, then you can, very English word, bugger off, right? And just go and certify yourselves. And then it costs you about 6,500 euros for the audit, down to about 3,700 is the cheapest we've ever found it. So, but the average is 6,500, 3,700, right? You can do that with them, and that's it, right? That's all you pay. Or that'll take you 15 days. Or you can do it with us. If you do it with us, you just call us and say, right, we want you to do the audit. We then act as your security team, internal audit, management review, all that stuff that we have to do. That 15 days drops down to, what do you reckon, Christopher? 2 hours as a max?
5-6 hours, maybe.
5 or 6 hours. All right. I'm being a bit optimistic, but let's say just over half a day max of your effort, right? Rather than 15 days, and we charge 6,500 euros, which is about 70,000 kroners, right? That's what we do, and that's it. We do pen tests. If you want a pen test, we'll set it up with a partner. We'll save you money, but we don't make money. We don't take kickbacks for anything, because the security industry I don't like it sometimes, because they take kickbacks. That, if I sell you Prisma Cloud or Cortex from Palo Alto, I can buy it for 18,000 euros. I can sell it to you for 18,000 euros, and then they give me a kickback of 8,000 euros, right? And they won't let me sell it to you for 10. If we've asked for a customer, they won't let me do it. So we don't like that. So we're working with partners. We're working with other startups that have got clever things as well, trying to promote their business, right? One company's award-winning company that's just worked out how to save very sensitive data without any possibility of any hacker getting into it. There is no way. I mean, it is military grade ×2. And if you really think that's not enough, they write it on glass for you. So they store it completely offline. That data is then stored on a glass tablet, which is inscribed. Mental. I've never heard of it before, but it's quite weird. And then put in some secure vault in a dungeon somewhere, right, with lasers and guard dogs and whatever. And they keep it there. So we're working with those sorts of companies, and we're supporting them. So we're actually doing security work for some really secure companies, which is quite interesting, right? So
but key here is more, if you need any help, reach out. We can help you for free, as we promised, and the reason for being here. So if you have any questions related to ISO 27001, if you have questions about other standards, of course we can try to help you. We don't know all the standards. We know a couple, the big ones, but they're all ISO standards, so they're structured in a very similar way. So if you think we can help, don't hesitate and just reach out.
If you're in UK markets or US markets, we've done HIPAA and the health data. Sorry, Daniel.
So when can we start?
Yes, tomorrow. Tomorrow. Do you know the funny thing, Daniel? I'll say this is weird. We've attracted so many people from security that have gone, what are you doing? You're doing it for free? And I'm like, yeah, why? I said, because it's sick and tired. I'm sick and tired. I used to work, actually, Christopher interviewed my old boss, who's a CISO in Berlin. I worked for him and I was doing it, and the company hiring me were like, get another 40 hours this month. And I went, no, but we told you to, we're your bosses. I said, I quit then. So I quit that job because they kept telling me to go back in and, hey, go and see Marie, get Marie to pay for another 40 hours, hold more workshops. I mean, it's pointless. Marie's done everything she needed to do. It's done. We finished the job. And they kept telling me, go back in. And that was the last time I worked for a consultant. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. It's pointless. I said, why can't you just deliver what's needed and nothing else? Right. And then they'll respect you and all that. So, and 27, there's no incentive. If I come into you, Daniel, and deliver 27, it's done. It's the longest job interview or interview ever. Right? Because for 12 weeks or half a year, whatever it takes, we're with you and there's no cost, right? And at the end of it, you go, most of our customers say, do you know what? We've had meetings with the management, with the founders. We have to pay them money at some point. They've done so much work. They're so bloody helpful. And having customers that want to do it. And then in the industry, people have told, that work in big corporates or enterprise clients, they said, you're doing what? Can we come and work for you? I said, yeah, but we're a small company. We can't pay a fortune. So we don't care. We'll take a pay cut because we want to make a difference in security. So we've got like a list of about 60 really senior people that really love security, but they've been in the corporate environment for too long and things are a bit slow. When you're in a big company, things are a bit slow, and they think they can really make a difference. So staffing's not a problem for us either, which is weird. We'll see how long they stay at what we pay them, but never mind.
Exactly. No, but send an email to either Lee or me, and we can set up a short call if you want to discuss. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks.
But a couple of people have said to us, but you're going to ruin the whole industry. I was like, yeah, I know. It's funny that, right? But also, if you don't believe us, because, you might think, well, there's a con, because what we found is, because our starting point was oh my God, my brain's gone dead. Belgium, Peter Buttoneers from a company called Emma Legal. They do legal AI M&A due diligence, right? Their customers at the beginning were zero. We helped them. Now Deloitte are their customer, right? And if you look at Emma Legal now, I mean, they're flying. Another thing we do, which is a bit silly, and actually we've just changed this, Daniel, so we got our commercial model slightly changed a little bit. What we used to do is meet with customers of your customers. We'd meet them as your security team, help with questionnaires, go and meet them, get the deal signed, basically, right? And then we were like, shit, we're doing this a lot. And Christopher and I were crying into our cups of tea once and going, we can't keep doing this. And we spoke to a couple of customers and they said, just charge us an hourly rate. So one of our customers just done an M&A activity where they took a huge investment, right? Huge investment. The investor's going to be the major shareholder. And we just did the M&A thing. And you imagine an M&A due diligence thing with all that work and all that effort. I think, what did we charge them? We haven't even charged them yet, but 900 euros, something like that for the whole thing. Took 4 weeks. So it's not expensive, do you know what I mean, if we do help. But that we've just put in place because we were realizing it's not sustainable to meet all of our customers' and be the security team for the whole year for nothing. But we didn't want to charge them like a yearly fee because they'll either underuse it or overuse it, right? So let's just keep it simple. We just charge them by the hour. So, it's sensible. Marie, you had something.
Yes, so I saw that was a question from Muna in the chat, but she's wondering at what stage should we contact you for help? But I'm also wondering, on top of that, do you recommend that we have a QMS? Do you set, if we get your help, is that also something you do simultaneously? Keep all the documentation there and so on.
It depends what you need from a QMS. If you need a QMS in terms of health industry stuff, that's one thing, right? So health quality. But if you mean 9001, sometimes it's worthwhile and sometimes it's not. I used to do a lot on 9001. But that we need to discuss with you and look at the standards. But yeah, we could do it simultaneously. I mean, there's no reason to do it in two separate parts. But if you need other standards, we might have to charge something for that because we do ISO 27001 free, but we can talk about that. We do SOC 2 and other things as well. If you're going into other areas, we do SOC 2. We charge for that, but to be honest, I mean, we're quite reasonable. We talk to you about it. There's no hidden fees or anything. We just give you a set price and that's done. And if it takes us longer, it takes us longer, right? So, but also, when should you start? This is what all founders ask. And I say, look, we've got companies now, the two ladies that are doing the health thing for women, they haven't even incorporated a company. They're on Hotmail and Gmail email addresses, right? And they were like, should we do it? And I went, we got them from a bank called KBC in Belgium. They advised that they used us. And we said, look, do it now, because by the time you get to the point where they're not dealing with enterprise clients, right? They're dealing with regulators, right? For health industry kind of data and, hospitals and things. They want them to have 27001. Not necessarily certified, but they want them to have the controls in place. So get them in place now. The earlier you do it, the better. But you can go slow, but just to get the first part done with us, so we can give you a list of what you're missing at least, right? Then you can take 2 years to do it, and you can never certify. Therefore, you never pay us money. Christopher and I never buy fancy boats or anything like that. But never mind, right? We live in Sweden. There's too many lakes not to have boats, but start immediately, because we've had probably how many, Christopher? At least 10 clients. The founders have gone, yeah, we'll just start a little bit slow and all that. And then they phone us up. One of them on the 20th of December last year, we need to certify by the 4th of Jan or we lose a major contract. I was like, it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. We met with their customer. We managed to get a letter from the certification body saying, that they're it's guaranteed. They're already contracted with the certification body. They're definitely going to do it. That met the requirements, so they could sign the contract. But it's often you don't need it until you do, and then you're panicking, right? And you don't want to do these things too quickly. You want to think about it, because otherwise you overpromise. And I do master service agreements for all the big. I review master service agreements all day long, pretty much. And you've got to be very careful. Anything you promise in a security standard, big companies will take it and put it in a master service agreement or in an addendum. And then you're looking at material breach of contract if you ever break that. And if you promise something you don't do, your contract's only going to last 6 to 12 months, and then you're going to be audited and you're going to fail. So you got to be careful.
But it also makes sense from an architectural standpoint as well, because in the beginning, the questions we ask are very sensible, I would say, but it's also a lot of founders tend to be like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, that was a good question. So it can help you improve the kind of architectural design of your infrastructure and how you develop code, and are we doing things the right way? And that can actually save time by doing it now. It shouldn't distract you from actually creating the product, because that's the main thing for you right now. But doing it now may save more time, because doing it retroactively sometimes is even more time consuming. We architected it this way. Shit, we should have done it a different way. Now we need to spend hours to re-architect.
Also, we found it, haven't we, Christopher, the choice of do you go AWS, do you use Fargate, do you use some other that once you see the controls, you can check, okay, we're gonna go to this cloud provider, check that they can actually support the controls you need to implement, because sometimes they can't. We've got a few people with Scaleway, which is great, but it makes some problems because they can't do certain things, right? Which makes meeting those controls a bit trickier. And also, it's worth having that thinking exercise of, let's say you've got a business, right? And you go, right, we need some sort of email system. We're going to use Office 365, or we're going to use Google, or we're going to use whatever we're going to use. What license you buy makes a big difference as well, right? Maybe you can have Business Basic, but actually Business Premium meets like 9 controls, right? Then it gives you Intune, which is a mobile device management thing. So it's about picking a religion in a way, right? Depending on which things you're going to buy. And if you know that at the beginning, before you bought them, or once you've just bought them, maybe you can change the licenses and stuff. But we try and make sure that there's nothing in what we try and help you implement that actually costs you money, really. We'd say the only thing is the kind of having a sort of MDM tool. That's the only thing that really costs you any money. Like pen testing, you don't need to do pen testing for 27001, but you do need to do it for enterprise clients and regulators, right? So, but I'd say start early, and you can always go, hey, we're not going to have meetings for a few months, for 6 months. We've had that. The company goes, right, we're going to disappear for 3 months, but now we know what we need to do, and then they come back. The other thing I'd say is very, very important. We've had a couple of customers that said, we'll do this. You've done the work free. We're not going to meet you weekly. We're going to do it on our own. Okay. And then the CEO's gone, is that a good idea? The CTO wants to do that. Is it a good idea? I'm like, no, it's going to be a disaster. And they come back to us a month later, and one of them, he'd used Claude AI to make 60 policies. With us, you don't need to make policies or Excel sheets or anything. We've already done it. And then he said to me, can you review all these? I said, yeah. I said, I really should charge you to review these because it's a pain in the butt, but I'll do it anyway. And I created a folder going completely pointless. I put them all in there. And he was like, I've wasted a lot of time, haven't I? I said, yes, a huge amount of time. You did it with AI, so it's not that much time. But we know where the balance is. We know where you don't need to go. One company tried to hire a law firm to do the legal compliance register. You don't need to do that. We can do it in under 5 minutes with you, right? And it's enough for the standard and enough for an enterprise customer, right? So start early and do weeklies with us so we can advise so you don't go either too low or too high. And the smarter you are, the higher you're going to go. So.
Any more questions?
Is there any in the chat? Let me have a look.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
I'm the one who wrote the comment in the chat. Sorry, I was eating lunch.
Yeah, no worries.
Just a general comment, not a question. I think you gave very good information. And as a startup, this will really help us because we notice that a lot of startups and a lot of competitors, everyone's moving so fast now time. So taking the time to, or wasting or using a lot of time to comply with these standards, we don't have the time. We need to work much more on the product. So having you guys help us is going to be really, really good. Just a general comment.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the point, right? We've got two investors, actually, who are the investors that invest in other companies, right? They are on us 24/7, 365 to give us money. They really want to give us money. And I said, okay, dudes, and they're Stockholm billionaires, right? And I said, dudes, what's your first idea you've got? They said, we've got loads of ideas. I went, oh, name one. What you do, you know that free thing you do? I was like, yeah. If you charge for that, I went, nope. A startup hasn't got the money to pay for it, right? They just don't have the money to pay for it. And it's not what they should be spending money on. They should be spending money on doing their tool. And if we don't charge for it and keep it simple, it can be efficient to deliver. And the money we make from people that use us to save time in the future for the certifications covers everything, right? So it's a sustainable business. I don't like these tools. There's a lot of tools out there, and what they try and do is trap you in. They keep your data. You can't extract that data. There's no data portability at all. And then they're just going to raise the price. We don't. We fix, even with the contract that we do with our customers now, we fix it at like a 5% inflation balance thing. We're not a SaaS platform, but we are building a SaaS tool. So the end of this month, we actually launch a SaaS tool, right? And this is quite interesting. So the SaaS tool is either incredibly cheap or free if you're using the certification service. It's completely open, so you can just take your data out and walk away anytime, cancel the contract at any time. But we're trying to do it free, but we learned, and you founders will know this more than we do. We were like, we'll build a platform, SaaS platform, we'll do it all free. And we realized actually it's going to cost us money to build it and to deliver it, but it's not much. So it doesn't have to be expensive. But the point of that is, if you're using us, the people that are already using us, they'll get it free, right? And it just stops them having to remember things. So they can crack on, do their business, build their product, deliver with their customers. And in the year, it just says, oh, by the way, Daniel, do that thing. And you're like, oh, okay. And it tells us that you've done it. We check it and click yes. So it doesn't have to cost a lot. It's not a difficult thing. We've also got integrations with cloud environments where it can do not just security stuff, but FinOps. So it can look at your cloud environment and go, yeah, you're not using this effectively. You've got a lot of stuff here. We think you could save yourself 30% of your cash. That'll just report to you and say, hey, we think you're overspending in cloud. That's good for a startup as you're growing and as you're scaling rapidly. It's good to keep an eye on the finances, right? So these are things we just want to do because they're the right things to do. Our main money-making thing, apart from the hourly rate for extra stuff, which we had to do, is that 6,500 or 70,000 crowns. That's what we want. We don't want to up your spend. We're not trying to build other products to up your spend. What we're trying to do is help you forget about security, where we can be your outsourced security team for a low price. And honestly, I thought we were going to charge, what did we say, Christopher? Is it 25,000 euros a year to be an outsourced security team? That was our first idea. It's not worth it. We can't justify that money. Even if you, and Daniel, I don't know how big your business is. I'm picking on Daniel now, but I don't know how big your business is. But let's say you're 10 people, right? It's 6,500 euros a year. And if you need us for an hour, it's another, whatever we charge per hour, right? But when you get to 100 people, it's probably, I don't know, €8,500 a year. It's not that much difference. And if you get to 1 billion people and you're making billions, and we have to speak to your secretary to get in touch with you because you're too fancy now, we can't speak to you, but you're the boss man, and it's still not that expensive, right? It's basically how many days you're audited on. So there's no, and we put that actually, in writing legally in our contracts. We're not going to up the money. It's not the point. It's not to trap you and up money. The point is to be, we kind of want to be like a very transparent organization, but also useful. And then we attract talent to us that really want to work for us because we're doing something useful and people can be proud of doing it. And we want to be sustainable and we want to be open. So, and it's very different. I mean, every other person I know is a founder. I know a few other founders that are doing not similar to me, but they're doing other, tools or whatever. That all they want to do, their pitch to investors is trap the customer, then raise the price as fast as you can. And we've just been caught by it. We use a finance tool in Sweden, and they've just been bought by an investment company, and they basically delisted them and tripled the price. Right?
Fortnox.
Fortnox, yeah. And they keep sending me these things saying, how are you finding using Fortnox? Bloody terrible, and paying 3 times the amount, right? That's not what we want to do. So that's where we are, and we quite enjoy this, right? It's quite fun. So if we can be useful in any way, we want to be useful. And don't worry about it. If you don't need certification, you're thinking, well, I don't want to use these guys, I'm never going to pay them any money. Who cares, right? Recommend us to someone else later if you enjoy the process, and then we'll make money there, and that sustains the business. So, and we're partnered with Winter Circus in Ghent. We're partnered with Start KBC. We're partnered with lots of others. We're new to Digital Well Ventures, but we're partnered with lots of others that have really done diligence on us and looked at everyone we've helped and interviewed them to say, are these guys for real, or is there a catch? And on our website, we've got named people from different companies you can look and their reviews, honest reviews, right? And you can contact them, right? So all of our customers have said, yeah, if anyone wants to call us or email us, just give them the email address. They can speak to another founder that's done this, has been through this process for SOC 2, for 27, for Cyber Vardis, and you can have a chat with them. So,
sorry, I just want to be very off time. Is there any final questions?
Oh yeah, 6 minutes.
Again, if not, feel free to reach out and we can take it from there.
Yes, so there's no more questions in the chat. There is the contact details, and we also share the contact details together with today's presentation.
Yeah, and we won't phone you, by the way. We won't contact you. We're not salespeople. We're not going to start going, Daniel, can we have a call, please? If Daniel wants to contact us, or Tetiana wants to contact us, you contact us. We got offered this. We did a presentation in Belgium, 45 companies, and one guy phoned me and was like, "Why didn't you call me?" I was like, "What for?" "To sell me stuff." I was like, "I don't want to sell you anything. You can come and get some free stuff, and if in 12 weeks or 20 weeks or 6 months you want to buy something, you know what we sell. That's it. We don't even contact our existing customers to say, oh, we do pen tests as well. Do you want to buy it? Because we don't make any money from it. But if you contact us, we'll arrange it for you. But that's the way we work. So it's a very simple business. So.
Okay, so if there's no more questions for now, a big thank you to Lee and Christopher for sharing your expertise. And thanks again for joining us today. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, eat some lunch if you can, people.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very valuable. Looking forward to staying in contact. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.